Tony, it's time. Clap us in, buddy.
You don't think this clap is very unnecessary?
Yeah, but
okay.
Hi, Glenn Younger with Graw Security. You have found the Unlocked Podcast with Lars, Tony, and Chad. Let her go, boys.
Anyhow, fellas, welcome back to the Unlocked Podcast. Episode, I should have looked this up, 63.
You got it.
Right? That's clever putting it on the screen like that. We are, I guess, 3 business owners in North America. Does that sound all right? We are all in the security industry. Tony, if you start typing, I'm watching you. I can see you. If you start typing right now, I'm going to freak out. This is the intro. Stop it. Trying to entertain the crew and get everyone engaged early in the podcast, and Chad's got up and left, and Tony's sending text messages to someone like,
hello,
this is Lars, the Unlocked
Johnson,
Podcast.
Here we are.
Episode 63 is off to a hot start. My name is Lars Johnson. I'm going to be your host. Thankfully, this is an episode worth listening to, but I also have these 2 other doofuses with me that have given me a bit of heat this morning, so prepare for some spice. One of you guys want to say who you are? You want to talk a little bit, say something? Yeah? No? All right, whatever.
I'm Chad Lingafelt from North Carolina.
And I am Tony Hokinson from Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
you might have heard about us these days.
Yeah, you guys are having a heck of a time. It's, I guess for some reference there, we are in the 3rd week of January. This is probably released maybe even next week. I think we're caught up on time.
We're right on schedule.
We're right on schedule, which is perfect. So there's been a bit of unrest, I would say. Been a few things happening in Minnesota, and I think Canada and America, we've been having a little tickle fight between your angry orange man and our little French banker. But it's an interesting time in the world. But I think more importantly, it is the beginning of the year, and we've been doing a lot of talking. I know Chad and I were just down in Mexico. How's that?
That was a great pronunciation.
Thank you. So we were in Mexico and spent a bit of time having margaritas and talking about world domination, which was very interesting. I'll just throw it out there. If anyone is thinking about rolling out a new CRM or new software, and if you're like kind of the driving visionary behind that, and you release it on a Monday and then go to Mexico for a week, like the next day, there can be speed bumps in the implementation.
That's a bit extreme exaggeration on the timeline, but there is some proximity there. I think we launched.
I've never known Lars to be one to exaggerate much.
Yeah,
it's shocking.
We actually launched about a week before I left, and after months and months and months of preparation, but maybe underestimated the amount of involvement that I needed to have.
Yeah, and combine that with trying to hit golf balls in the mangroves, where Chad hit a few. Chad's second shot of our golf game was like, if there was anyone else on the course, it would have killed someone. Like it was so sideways, it almost went backwards.
Oh, it was terrible.
Oh man! And we were playing with a friend named Cody, and he's a very good player. And I was like, yeah, Chad gets around pretty good, and doesn't have it. And then he hits the first one out there, and Cody's like, yeah, Chad, he looks like a pretty good player. Second one hits absolutely dead sideways, and Cody just looks at me. He's like, oh God, like, we're not going to be able to go near him.
Chad, with the amount you golf, how did that happen?
Well, it's a great question. If I knew the answer to that, then I probably wouldn't allow it to happen anymore, Tony.
That's true.
It was, there was, I don't know, there were some demons in there, but we got them out, and I spent a little time in the mangroves myself. If you've ever played any golf in Mexico, you'll know if you hit it in the bush, it's dead. It's never to be found again. And if you go in that, you'll never to be found again. So it's yeah. What's been going on in your world, Tone?
Just been trying to stay warm. It's a bit chilly in the great state of Minnesota. I think tomorrow our high is -9.
Very important to the listeners.
Yes.
Report. Thank you, Tom.
Yes.
Ooh.
Just been focusing on getting off the year to a good start, and took a little vacation. Went down to Florida with the wife and son, and visited my dad and his wife, and got to enjoy some slightly warmer weather.
Papa Hogue, doing his thing.
Funny story. We went to go out on his boat, and he was concerned that we were going to be able to get it off the lift. Turns out it helps to untie the boat in order to get it off the lift. He thought that the water level was too low because of the tide. And after a while, I was like, Dad, there's a rope tied to the front of the boat. And he goes, oh, that would help.
Oh boy. Did he say, oh boy?
Yeah, something like that.
That's
got some good seafood and, like I said, a little warmer climate. It was a good time.
That's good. Did you see Ken in his lock shops?
Did not. We were a little bit south of him.
Good.
So
good. That's less Ken is usually a good thing.
Ken Kupferman, for those that are listening.
Well, yeah, anyone that knows Ken knows if I said something awful about a Ken, they know which Ken I'm talking about.
That's very fair.
Yeah. Well, so this week, guys, I think I posed the question, actually came in from one of the comments. I don't know, is there any other comments you wanted to share, Chad, before we jump into this?
Let me look real quick. You can riff for a bit, and I'll pull them up because I was well prepared
for
that.
You call it riff? See, I call it vamp, but I think we'll get there. One of the comments came in. We were talking about hiring a salesperson, and I remember, I think, Tony, you and I went down. We were in Texas a couple of years ago. I remember we went to the Brevo Summit, I think, and we stayed for the extra. And I think Matt Fairbanks was their senior VP of sales. And Matt's a charismatic guy, and he's a bright guy, and has obviously had some success in his career. And the conversation came up about compensating for salespeople, and we were like, oh yeah, we're gonna go listen to this because I'd really like to hear what somebody with some experience and success would say about this. And I remember he just kind of like threw his hands up. He's like, man, I don't know. He's like, good, we've tried this and it didn't really work. I tried this. Like, unanimously in the room, everyone was like, oh, is there no one here that has the answer? So it really kind of opened my eyes in that this is a challenging topic, and there really isn't any one right answer. So somebody wrote in and said, I'm hiring someone and thinking, compensation. How do you guys do it? I thought, And then I guess, believe it or not, it was a coincidence because I was talking yesterday with our team and thinking about restructuring some of it. And I sent you guys hey, how are you guys doing this? And then asked, hey, what's our topic tomorrow? And it was, so here we are.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic. There's a lot of, I don't want to say polarization, but just a lot of different thoughts processes around how to do compensation. And I think even the three of us probably have some different ideas on how we want to set that up. And I agree with you. There's no right way. I think a lot of it depends on the business's goals and what you're trying to achieve. And I think
there is certainly wrong ways.
Sure. Yes.
But
absolutely.
Right ways, I'm not as confident.
Yep. And I think it's important to figure out what goals you want to have for your business and make sure that your compensation structures are aligned with that and put some intentionality behind it. I think the sales position specifically is not one that you can just say, nope, I'm going to hire you for this amount and you're just going to go do your job. It's not an hourly role. They have a lot of control and autonomy over their time and their schedule. And typically, I think the salesperson in general is a good salesperson is wired in a specific way and wants a little bit of incentive. So I think, and traditionally, that's how sales roles are set up, is having an incentive structure. And I think people tend to, I think a lot of people just have no incentive structure and some people overdo it. And I think there's a lot of different philosophies. So I'm excited to talk about it.
And that's really what we're talking about. It's, a little philosophy or theory here. But really, I think, Tony, you nailed it there. What you're talking about is, the compensation model, what it's really doing, it's driving behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, I think, understanding that you can go about it where you can set a compensation model to drive the behavior you want, or you can drive the behavior that you have, because I see those as two different things.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a company that is like, I would look at a company like Eagle Eye. Okay, that's a networking, a camera company, a cloud-based
Now
camera
called
company
Brevo.
that, now called Brevo. But I'm talking about Eagle Eye specifically because I feel their culture was quite a bit different than Brevo's.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that, Eagle Eye is very much a sales-driven, almost pushy kind of get the sale, where are you at, what do we need to do, follow up. It's just kind of that type of, and if you have an organization that thrives on that and you attract people like that, you probably want a compensation model that's going to align with that. On the flip side, if you're more of if you call me, I will tell you what you need, and not really that type of sales pushiness, you aren't going to attract the people that you want with a compensation model that's more aligned to the former. So, Chad, you're reaching for references here and stroking your beard. I
don't think I've touched my beard.
What's percolating through that?
Yeah.
And can we also take a moment, just a station identification here, to check out Chad's hair? Because, guys, Chad's got a new haircut for the first time in 15 years. And I just want to acknowledge this, that it's coming together. And I made this comment in Mexico multiple times, but just pop onto YouTube, check it out. New hair for Chad. Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
I'm not sure what to make of that. So the kind of entire thing around compensation and salespeople, and putting incentivization, or putting the structure around how you pay someone for their performance, right? So if you really look at the details of this, and I think step away from it, what you typically find is there's going to be an alignment to the owner or the manager of how they believe that they should compensate those people that they bring onto their team.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, if you have a very entrepreneurial type individual that is a go out, kill something, bring it back, and you get to take part of what you kill, they're going to be more driven towards that commission-based compensation model, because that's the way they like to be incentivized. Like, whatever I can put my hands towards and whatever I can make happen, I want to get a piece of it. And
I kill, I eat, and therefore everyone. Correct. Yes.
And so then they will typically just apply that same model to everybody without realizing that may not motivate other people. And so now you are building a culture or an environment where you want everybody to go and take a piece of what they kill, and that may not be the environment that you want, right? And when it kind of peels back the layer, it's like, I think those types of compensation models, this is my opinion, they were driven out of a lack of management philosophy. So if I can just pay you a percentage of what you bring back, then that means I don't really have to manage you or your measurables. I have to be very light on management, because if you don't kill it, you don't eat, you're not going to be here. And so it's a very light management philosophy, right? And I think what happens is you get the result that you just described: pushy salespeople that are out there pestering customers because they have to eat. And
I mean, by the words that you just chose, pushy salespeople that pester customers, right? I bet you there's half the world that would argue that that's. But I'm going to guess, judging by those words, that that's not how you've founded your organization.
Correct, because it's
not how you are.
Correct, and the other thing that
you're annoying but not pestering.
Right? The other thing that I would say you might see some balance in is, these are conversations I think you guys have been a part of before, because I have asked lots and lots and lots of what you would consider well-compensated salespeople, their motivating factors. And most all of these people have a number in mind that they're trying to achieve, and they will do the amount of work that it takes to get to that number, and then they will take a break. And so the compensation model around commission is theorized on the fact that somebody's just going to work their butt off continually because they're going to get a piece of what they bring to the company. But at a point, they realize that they have brought enough, they feel well compensated, and they're going to take it easy. So it's not going to constantly grow. It's just going to taper off. And then they will measure that, because then they'll sandbag. They'll carry that over for the next year because they want to keep their consistent income. Yeah. So what if that's the case, and if that's the human behavior that's out there, why not find a comparable, consistent compensation model that honors people for their work and gives them measurables and outcome-based objectives that they can work towards, and it's a little more managed, and they're not feeling that pressure every month of, I got to get this or I'm not going to be able to pay my bills type thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're sounding more dramatically towards that side than I was expecting, because I'm not sure I agree with all of that. I also know that Chad, I spent lots of time with Chad and his company. They're in Charlotte, North Dakota. What is
North Dakota? Yeah, we're close to North Dakota, in North Carolina.
Oh boy, yeah. But Charlotte, North Carolina, and how I would describe your culture is a bunch of good old Southern boys. It's some good old boys that all have beards, and they're kind of buddies and slap hands, and they go home to their wife and kids, and they're just a bunch of kind of nice guys. I wouldn't say any of them are particularly like aggressive type of, but I bet you if we go up the coast north, we got a mutual friend that is in Virginia, and that how would that, if we had a locksmith company up in that area, I think you're going to find a lot more prevalence to that other style you're talking about. You refer to it as pushy, or but I think it is really driven by where you are and the type of people that you'd have. Like, I would think Tony in Minnesota probably doesn't have a whole bunch of overly aggressive people. And I don't know, Tony, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to guess most of your guys are, gee golly gosh, oh, hi there, how was your day? Oh, yep, would you like a key? Here's a doorknob too. Good on you then.
So I disagree with you. I think that if you polled 80% of the world, they would say that a salesperson needs to be compensated with a mid base, whether it be 20%, 50% base, and then a high commission. I think that there is truth that salespeople need some form of incentive, but I believe that a true commission structure, and I've been with Chad in some of those conversations with very highly compensated salespeople, and they all say that the incentive structure does not change their behaviors. And I just looked this up because I heard this a couple of months back. I really liked it. It was Jim Collins made a comment about how you can't motivate the wrong person with incentives, and I think that incentives are essentially a crutch, and like Chad said, they are a easy way out to avoid having to manage somebody, with the theory being that they will self-manage themselves. But I think it's just an excuse. I think really what incentivizes people is knowing, are they hitting their goals? Are they hitting their targets? And I think that if you're managing an individual correctly, the compensation structure is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but the commission structure is like, you need somebody to have a clear path to make more money. And that is the key importance. I think having a commission structure is just an easy way to not have to manage them and say, here you go, do what you want. The more you work, the more you sell. But at the end of the day, it just, like Chad said, people will reach a certain point and they won't push themselves anymore.
So, okay, a lot of dumb stuff coming out of both of you right now.
Well,
first of all, compensation doesn't incentivize the wrong person. Well, yeah, groundbreaking news. If you got the wrong person in the seat, no kidding, it's not going to work.
But even that, if you have the right person in the seat with the wrong compensation structure, it can lead to burnout at a faster pace.
Correct.
Absolutely. Right? I don't think anyone would argue that.
you see that churn a lot because you've mentioned some companies already, but some of the vendors that we all work with, they have a high turnover rate because if they can't meet their benchmarks or they can't make money, then they roll out because somebody else incentivizes them with 13% instead of 12.7.
So I had a conversation with somebody a couple of weeks ago that I found really interesting because he used to be an entrepreneur, used to be a business owner, used to be a successful business owner, and was very motivated by making more money. And in that conversation with him, I was asking him kind of the same questions I've heard Chad ask people. And I said, now that you're a salesperson, how would you want to be motivated? And he's like, I think, I have a job that you're paying me to do, and you should expect me to do that job, and you should pay me what that job is worth. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I don't care about having a commission. He's like, if the company is fortunate enough to get a huge lead and I go sell that huge lead, I didn't do anything different to get that. Why should I be paid more because I got handed a big lead, and vice versa? And I'm paraphrasing some of what he said, but in essence, he was basically saying, like, it is my job to do certain amount of activities, and you should tell me what that is worth to you, and I should be paid that. And he's like, I don't believe in a commission because I'm an employee, and again, this is a very successful person. This is not a lazy person. This is someone who is very driven by money, and to him, it was like, I don't need that incentive.
Yeah.
I think too, in our industry, that a salesperson, an account manager, whatever you want to deem it necessary, an individual that goes out and interfaces with a customer to discuss opportunities, give them pricing, and then close a deal, is a role within your organization. They cannot independently sell it. They cannot independently deploy it. Mm-hmm. It is a part of a role. And it's no different than, do you incentivize a commission structure to your customer service people based off of the number of calls that they close?
Some people do.
Somebody calls in. I understand that, but if you track what I'm saying, it is a role inside of an organization that is necessary for growth, and it requires other people to help fulfill the things that they sell.
But we're throwing around a few terms here that we probably should clarify. Sure. Because we're talking about compensation, which is not money. Compensation is a group of things that you get as compensation for the efforts that you do. Now, for a customer service person answering the phone, they are part of a team. Absolutely. Does it make sense for them to only get paid on calls that they close? No, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, because they are part of a team. They're only part of it. I wouldn't find it fair because I'm not in charge of marketing. I can't make the phone ring, right? So I can't control that. So there is part of that. However, do I want people to be incentivized to improve their ability to help people, aka close opportunities? Yes, I want people, if they get better and work harder and are better at their job, they should be compensated more. Now, and that's where I think we'll get in kind of the next area here, but that's where I'm not a big advocate of just a salary, because I always go back to the analogy of sports. Mm-hmm. Okay, you look at Shohei. Okay, Shohei, I don't know, got 300 or 750 million, right, over 10 years. He makes $75 million a year. And I know the Dodgers are going to sell more Shohei jerseys to pay for that than the contract's worth. But how does that contract look in 10 years when they have 44-year-old Shohei Ohtani making $75 million? Right? The problem with how most compensation is structured in most government organizations and most larger organizations is you are compensated by salary or hourly wage for the amount of time you've been there. Mm-hmm. And realistically, when you get to, your mid 30s, early 40s, that's kind of your peak performance. And then it's like you have a bunch of people that are on the downward trajectory of their career that are still making more money and getting, more compensation every year for less performance. Mm-hmm. So that's like my biggest fear that I'm trying to avoid. So
you're trying to fight against the theory around pay somebody less at their younger years as it increases, and then then you naturally want to incrementally increase it even though their performance decreases. So
Yeah.
pay people what they're performing for at the time of performance.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think I should clarify what I said. Compensation is not irrelevant. Obviously, if you're performing better, you should be paid more.
Well,
but I
see,
believe
I'm not
that,
sure that's obvious to everyone, Tone. But yes, I would say
so
we
I
agree
should
with
clarify. We agree that if you're performing better, you should absolutely be paid more. What I
Mm-hmm.
am proposing is that a quarter worth of sales is not an indictment of how good of a quality of a salesperson you are. I believe your compensation should be based on historical sales performance and what your future projections are
Mhm.
based on that performance. Dips and ebbs and flows in the sales cycle. I don't believe a salesperson should be punished for that as long as they're putting in the effort and doing the right activities to garner future success.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the challenges with a traditional commission structure is everybody likes predictable income, right? We as business owners all want RMR. We all want a predictable income. And to go out to a salesperson and say, now all of a sudden you're on a commission structure and if you have a slowish quarter, even though if you're doing all the right things and customers a great example for us would have been Q1 this year.
Mhm.
Everyone was holding on to their money. No one was approving quotes. We had a little bit of dip in Q1. I don't believe that it's the right thing to do as a business owner to have the salesperson take the brunt of that and have a lower income just because of a bad quarter. Again, this is assuming they're doing the right things. And I think back to a traditional commission structure, you can put it in place and it's somewhat self-managing. But if you as a manager are working with the employee and putting in good leading indicators and holding them accountable to that, if you know they're doing their job properly, they shouldn't be compensated less for a finite period of time.
And that's fair. It also is a good way to be in financial trouble. If you compensate, it's like we're compensating. You're trying. Is there at no point, like one of my favorite?
Sure. If the trying becomes lack of results over time, they're no longer working for you.
Well, that's a key clarification.
Yes.
One of the I've said this so many times. There's a quote that my friend. So I was a university volleyball coach at Dalhousie University, and we had a very successful program. One of our rivals was St. FX, and the coach there was a lady named Michelle O'Coin, who was actually a good friend. He was our biggest rival, but also a good friend. And so we watched them play, and they went out and ended up losing, but it was a very close match. And I saw her after and just walked up. I was like, "Hey, coach," like we're in this little back hallway. I was like, "Hey, that was a gut punch. Like that one hurt." I was like, sorry about that. Like your girls tried, it just didn't. And she just looked at me and just stopped me and like, you know what? I'm not going to use her exact words because Apple already made us explicit. But you know what? I don't give a flying flip that they tried. I could put my mother out there and she would try. Sometimes it's about execution, and we did not execute. And that has always stuck with me. That's 15 years ago, because a lot of us, I don't want to sit here and advocate and say that, effort's all that matters.
No.
I would say effort is a good portion. Without effort, you will not be successful. But there does have to be an element of execution, no matter what you are doing. And however you are going to compensate and build your culture, it should be focused on execution, performance, and success. However you want to define that is up to you. But it's
correct. That I agree with.
So I guess, to summarize that, what we're really saying is be aware that your compensation package either has to match your culture or you have to change your culture to match your compensation package.
Mm-hmm.
It's one or the other, because if you try and mix and match and don't listen to New Age philosophy and say, well, this person will do this and this person will do this, because then you spend all your time managing and looking at data and compensation and dicking around, create one that's fair. Mm-hmm. It rewards excellence and the team aspect of it, and stick with it and attract people that match that.
So I think if you then now correlate that back to our industry, because sales as a wide term, right? A salesperson,
exactly, hard to
always
define.
It's hard to define, and then they think, well, if I've got to hire a salesperson, I've got to pay them a large amount of money, and they're probably not going to perform, or they're not going to be able to return that back to me. And so most locksmith owners are skeptical of investing in a salesperson,
Yes.
because they believe that it's going to be a failed investment, and they're not going to get the return back. So this is kind of where I was really hyped up about this at the beginning of this conversation, is they fall back to the high commission philosophy because they don't know how to manage a salesperson. They're skeptical of the outcome of it. So they put it all commission based because they want to make sure that they're hedging their bets on, if you don't perform, then I don't have to pay you.
Which is risk reward, which is fundamental in life, right? Why are you paying a commission base? Well, it's incentive. But I bet you more of the driving factor, if you consider it, it's risk reward.
Comfort.
If you don't perform,
Security.
you don't bring it in, you don't get anything. I don't, but more importantly, I don't lose anything.
Yeah.
I'm taking money out of my pocket and putting it in your pocket. That's
and that's where I think a lot of people, their position that they sit, and the thing that I would kind of bring to that table is get better at learning how to set up a sales organization, get better at understanding your sales process, put measurables in place that you expect them to do, and not outcome-based objectives, but the activities that require to get to the outcome-based objectives.
Right.
So put that in place, and then you start to see different results. Then you can pay according to the results that you are expecting,
right.
and get to that point, and then you're much more you're going to be much more proactive on the outcome of the sales objectives that you're looking for. Meaning, if I want to grow my company's revenue by $1 million and I put a salesperson in place, what are the activities that salesperson needs to do day 1, day 30, day 60, day 90 to start to work towards, over a 2-year period, working up towards $1 million in sales, because that's what I'm going to need to do.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen first day. So these are the paths that need to go, and then give it some time to deploy and get the results. Right. And we can talk through some more of the specifics on that, but that's what I think where we get stuck in this from our industry is people get really, really, really stuck in that skeptical nature that they're the only person that can sell, and the only way that they've been selling for years is through relationships.
Yeah.
And they expect you to come in on day one and have 0 relationships and sell the exact same amount that the owner has been selling just by
sales is easy. I mean, I've been selling to this guy for 30 years. Oh, you don't say. Right? That's easy. Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I don't want to dive too far into the operational strategy, but I know, Chad, you're referring to lead and lag measures and the inputs that are going in. We have done a podcast on that already. I don't know the reference or the number, and I know there is a book coming from it, but maybe peruse just through previous if you want to specifically look at what Chad is talking about. But I want to pivot us a little different direction because I want to talk about how to actually build the plan and get a little bit tangible here. So I was going through this, and I'll tell you just kind of my experience, and hope you guys can jump in and correct me where I'm wrong. But I was going through this experience literally yesterday when I sent you guys that message. I was talking with Matt, and we were looking at, right now I've got a salary guy. I've got 2 salary guys and 2 salary plus commission guys. And one of the, they're overworked. We need more people. So I brought somebody in. Okay. And now the commission guy was like, ooh, well, now it's another commission guy. It now created a little, not animosity, but a little bit of, there's a new fox in the hen house, or whatever you want to call it. So, the comment came out that was like, well, I've hit my target for 25, but come January, it's every man for themselves. So I'm paraphrasing here a little bit for dramatic effect, but that's the feeling that I got.
You got some competition.
Yeah. And it's no longer like, so anyway, so talking with Matt, I was like, hey man, like I don't want to do this. I don't like that feeling. So I want to talk about this. So he's like, okay, so we're going to restructure our comp plan. It's like, okay, now how do we get started? Because I think a lot of people that are listening are probably sitting there like, hey, I haven't hired a salesperson, or I want to, but the comp plan, how do I pay them? Do I just give them a salary like what, 80 grand, 100 grand, 60 grand?
Mhm.
What is it? Right. How I do this and what I would recommend is I start at the end. Okay. I've got a commercial locksmith company. My expectation and target is net profit at the very bottom. Should be, my goal is 14% of sales. You could argue this. You could say it could be 30, but I would say on average, we know for fact that between 9 and 12% is pretty standard.
Mhm.
And 14% is if you've got it figured out.
Above standard.
Yes. So I start with 14%, and then I say, okay, this is what my op expenses are, which is rent and supplies and kind of those fixed type of expenses. I then figure out how much wage I can spend to get the margin, which is the profit on sales. That gets me to that 14%. And that gives me an idea of what I can pay the guys in the field are one thing, but what I can pay salespeople to get enough margin to make that 14%. So when I started doing this, I started right at the bottom. I started at the end and worked my way back. So I guess my question is how have you guys done it? How would you do it? Am I out to lunch here? Where would you recommend people get started on this? Give me a tip and trick, Chad or Tony. Tip and trick, Tony. Do it.
I would take. I think your approach is logical. I would think about. I think this is the thing you hear.
Well,
all the time with compensation,
welcome.
right? You want to have some incentives for the behaviors you are trying to repeat, right? So what is the thing you want your salesperson to do? Do you want them to sell more revenue? Do you want them to add more subscription accounts? Do you want them to have X number of appointments?
Okay.
I believe that you should have a reasonable expectation. So this is not a tip and trick, but I'll just share my philosophy.
Okay.
I believe that you should have a reasonable expectation of how much money you can allocate to your sales team. So the math you were doing there, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the numbers you hear is roughly 10%. Somewhere between 7.5 to 12.5% of revenue.
Sell $100, you can compensate $10.
Roughly,
is a traditional yes
to the sales team. I think that is a good method to get to a base compensation for a salesperson. As previously mentioned, I don't believe in a super low base for somebody. I think that someone should be paid what they're worth. And I believe that if they overachieve expectations, they should have some minor incentive, roughly.
Bonus, I think is
bonus.
the word.
Bonus is the word I would use.
Not commission, it's a bonus, right?
5 to 15% of their total compensation.
5 to 15. Okay.
Yeah. And I go back and forth on...
Sorry, Tone, can you give me more on that? 5 to 15. Where'd that number come from?
I believe that if it is any less than that, especially in a sales role, it will not change behavior at all. And I believe if it was more than that, it becomes too uncomfortable for the employee. And it doesn't give them a stable base to be comfortable with from a month-to-month standpoint.
Okay, so you're talking context is month to month.
Yep.
Bonus, if you say I want you to sell $100 and they sell $120, there's a bonus based on that number of between 5 and 15%
of their total compensation. So
say
total. A salesperson's expected to make
$10.
Yeah, say a salesperson's, for simple math, say their pay is $50,000 a year. They would maybe have the potential to make an extra $5,000 in bonus for the year.
Okay.
So roughly, right?
Okay.
The thing that I struggle with a little bit is what you're talking about with the team incentive versus the individual incentive. For most of our, especially in a sales role, right? I don't want people fighting over leads. I want them working together to hit our overall sales goal. So if our sales goal for the year is $4 million, I want all of our sales team working to achieve that $4 million and working together.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, if I say you as an individual need to sell X and you need to sell Y, now all of a sudden they're fighting with each other, and that's not an environment that I'm trying to create. I believe that there should be some form of individual qualifier of you must hit this to be eligible for bonus.
Yeah.
So like you must establish this baseline of
Yeah,
sales.
this is expectation.
Yep. And as long as you establish that expectation and meet expectations, you are eligible for the individual team bonus. That way you don't
Right.
have somebody that's carrying the whole team and then dividing up the bonus. So
Right.
I believe in a team bonus structure
Okay.
with kind of individual qualifiers that people need to meet.
So, and I do want to go farther down this path, but I want to hit pause there for a minute because I do want to start. We've got, established businesses, and I know a lot of people that are listening to this are just getting into it. So I do want to take half a step back and just talk about quickly, where do we get started? How do you decide on what the compensation is? We've said about 10 to 1. I said I start with 14% profit, work my way backwards, figure out what my cost is for a tech, for a job, figure out all those other things and say, I can afford this much. And if, of course, you can't afford that much, raise your price. But that's Chad, do you want to jump in here and talk about how would your tip and trick for how to get started? Oh, Chad, you've lost your audio, I think.
That's fine. There
you go.
So I would say I just was verifying some math on my end. So we're at 9% of the margin target for our sales organization is allocated for compensation.
Okay, sorry. Let me say that again. 9% of the margin, which is the defined margin for us,
is revenue minus cost of goods.
Cost of
and
hardware.
to clarify, your cost of goods includes only
hardware.
cost of hardware,
hardware.
not cost of labor.
Right, so not cost of the dude turning the wrench.
Correct.
But when you sell something, what you sold, the widget, sales minus the cost of the widget is your margin. Okay, so
Correct.
9% of that is dedicated to
and that's
compensating.
including materials and services. So just to give context, right, for that particular project, and then
like total sales minus the cost of the hardware. Okay, 9% of that.
And then I've created a calculation which is 9% of that particular target for the year is allocated for compensation budget. So how that is distributed is based off of individual performance, which we can talk about a little bit. But I've kind of worked off of a salary cap model. Like for a sports team, this is the amount of dollars that you have allocated for your team. If you want to put it all on one really high performer, if you want to distribute it amongst 3 or 4, or however you want to do it. But the more your target increases, is the more your salary cap increases, which allows you to continue to grow your team.
Gotcha.
So at the beginning of, or at the end of every year, each team is tasked with designating their gross margin target for the next year.
Okay.
Right. So
when you say team,
yep, each revenue generating team. So installation teams, access control teams, service teams, sales teams, all of those, they're all tasked with creating their target for the upcoming year. It does need to equal our overall company target. So we have a target that we need to hit, and then it's divided down by each individual team. So they have their percentage or their allocation towards that. So as to say, if every month our gross margin target was $500,000 and you had 5 teams, maybe, and just for easy math, each team would be responsible for $100,000 of margin for that particular month. So you track with me?
Somewhat. I think Rain Man's with you. Yeah.
and then that gives each of those teams, and it's not always an equal division, obviously, because each team has different number of people and their abilities are their skills are different. But it allows at that point, then that dictates the compensation for each of those teams across the board.
Yeah.
But on the sales side, we have, so let me stop there for a second.
Okay.
So we're basically building backwards. So you build backwards from your net income. We're the same way, right? We're building backwards from our net income to get up to what we expect our revenues and our gross margins to be for the entire year.
Right.
And then we're just then breaking that down by month and by team so they know what they need to hit. And then the sales portion of that, so our sales team is responsible, I believe it's 45% of that overall gross margin sales needs
We're
to
about
produce.
the same.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then based off of that number, that's their compensation allocation, their compensation budget is 9% of that number. And then they can divide that out how from on their team how they see it fit.
So let's say they're $1 million is their target.
Yep.
That means, in a nutshell, $90,000 would be for compensation.
Yep.
Now, is there a breakdown between, is that 90,000 salary or is that including the bonus?
So it's a great question. That is just salary.
That's salary. Okay.
Yeah. Our organization has, again, going back to this philosophy that I was kind of alluding to earlier.
Right. The good old boy philosophy.
Good old boy philosophy, whatever you want to call it. I love the act of the sales organization, right? It drives opportunities. It maintains relationships. I love that.
Sure.
I also am a firm believer that just having a sales organization in our business is just useless, because we have to have a customer service team. We have to have a purchasing team. We have to have an accounting team. We have to have an install base, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other factors at play to be able to execute what is sold. So they are part of our large organization.
Part of the team. Yes.
Yeah. They don't walk on water. They're not like, the people that are impervious to challenges.
I'm with you.
They're part of our team.
I'm with you.
All right. And so, in order for their bonus to be deployed, we do a team-wide bonus. And when I say team, I'm not talking about a sales team. I'm talking about a company-wide team.
Okay, so not team bonus, it's a company bonus.
And so that is only executed if the entire company hits its target for the month.
Okay, gotcha.
If the entire company does not hit it, so it's what I'm trying to do is balance these prima donnas, right, that come in and say, well, we hit our numbers. We get our bonus, but nobody else did theirs. And so, there you go.
Yeah.
Nobody else is hitting their numbers.
Okay.
And so the company is faltering or failing and not be able to execute that, but sales is posting up big numbers, or the service team is posting up big numbers, right? It needs to be an equally served balance between the entire organization. So if the company meets their target, then we distribute out bonuses to everybody on the team. And so in a great balanced world, and I want to talk about this, I want to come back to this in a second, but in a great balanced world, sales is running on about a 30 to 60 day leeway of everybody else. So they're selling something today that the install team is going to be installing in March.
Yeah.
And they're selling in February for what they're going to install in April. So if they maintain their targets, then the rest of the company is going to maintain their targets in balance in conjunction. So as long as the install teams can maintain their workflow, because if they get out of balance, then it's going to back up the sales organization and vice versa, right? So it requires a balanced effort. We don't want the sales team overloading the install team,
right?
And we don't want the install team slowing down the sales process. Yeah. So we need to keep that funnel flowing equally so that everybody is filled.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it also gives us our measurables for when we need to add technicians and when we need to add salespeople.
Yes.
Because when our
Sorry, and I was just going to say, and this is, I hear you, and this is a very operationally, strategically thought out structuring, right? I'm not sure this is a sales-driven instruction. I know we were just talking about, the philosophy of, well, I like this, and therefore everyone says this.
Sure. Yep.
And I think, don't get me wrong, you're the principal of the organization. You have every right in the world to be talking into the mirror a bit. So I agree with that. I'm not totally in agreement that this is how they should all work, because I think I differ in philosophy as well. But I certainly understand having an operationally kind of gifted brain that directs the sales side of it makes sense, and I would probably say that this is what you're talking about is a way more successful philosophy than the other way around, sales driven, and then just let the chaos happen behind you.
Sure. Yep.
Because there's one of the three of us that operates that way, and it occasionally bites him in his Canadian ass. So
I think it's a good summary. You actually seemingly somehow kind of agreed with it, or you brought up something that I wanted to highlight, that Chad's model of sales compensation is very successful. Like we've all three talked about it
in his culture. Yes,
sure, but I think that's part of it. Like his sales team is incredibly successful. They've really flourished the last couple of years.
Are you flirting with them, or what's going on?
No, but we talk about this in I know you don't always pay attention when others talk, but I do. And, like, we have learned that his sales team does a really good job, and this structure is working. And that is just one thing I want to highlight. I think some people listening to Chad say this might be like, but I wonder if that actually works. And it does. When you look at the numbers of it, his team produces a lot of sales. And like he even said, they do a really good job, and he compensates them very fairly for it. And they're successful. And
you're worried if they're listening. You want to make sure that you just rub their little bellies. Because I would also say we compensate differently, and I would say we have a very successful sales team as well, which is maybe a nice segue into talking about the actual structure. So I think we got there, and we've touched on it and some philosophy in the operational side of it. I think, the ones, what hasn't worked? What hasn't worked?
Measuring on revenue and not margin.
Okay. And again, defining revenue is just straight sales, and margin is profit.
Straight sales, because you're incentivizing somebody getting a sale without profitability.
Right.
So I heard an interesting take on that a couple of days ago when I was listening to a podcast. They talked about that as a common thing that people debate, right? Do you incentivize on margin or do you incentivize on sales? And I believe there is a lot of philosophy out there, which I somewhat subscribe to, that is, sales' job is to increase revenue. Operations' job is to make the margin profitable. So operations, in theory, should give. Now, I think your business is a little different in that you're operating in some large size projects that you need to be cautious of your margin on.
Yeah, I think that all is based off of who you give authority to allow discounts.
Correct. Yes. You have to put up the parameters. Right. And if you don't have the parameters, it's mayhem.
Correct. The other philosophy would be that operations and finance dictate what sort of margins you can sell in. Yeah. And then sales' job is to increase revenue as much as possible. And then operations and finance comes along and makes sure it's profitable.
You look a bit like Elon there, Tone.
Yeah. But
that was my left hand, though. So
and I would 100% agree with that statement if you do not give discounting authority to a salesperson.
Yeah, that's a really good caveat.
You do not, Chad?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
But I'm saying outside of, if I didn't give that, then that their entire responsibility would be on revenue.
That's your
increase in sales
your
increase.
guardrails is that they're incentivized on margin and they're given the flexibility to quote accordingly,
and
knowing that
our philosophy early in my career, I met a guy named Jeff Harch who was instrumental in building my belief and my philosophy on sales. And he said, this customer, he kind of got screwed last time. I got to give him a little something here. This guy, it doesn't matter. I can take a little bit more here. So he said, don't say that my maximum discount is 20%. Tell me how much you want to make on the year. Give me an average, and I'll make sure I hit that. So I said, okay, I want our gross margin, same definition as Chad, our gross margin to be 70%. And I think I've bumped that up to 72%. But so I don't care if one job is 60% and one job is 140%. On average, at the end of the year, 72% is what is required for you to have your job. So that gives the salesperson, and being a salesperson type myself, that gives me the flexibility for when I need to, grease the wheels, or if I need to do something out of the norm, I have the ability to do that because I trust my sales team to know their customer and know their philosophy. So I don't dictate, if I think, I don't even remember what the number is now because I'm a little more removed from it. But I said, if there's anything more than X discount, talk to me and let me know, because I'm just going to make sure that you have thought through this and make sure we're leading with value. So
it's same way on our end, right? Is we have a bottom line. If it goes below this percentage point on markup, then we need to have a conversation around your justification for it. And are there other alternate paths for this, right? But again, that is leaving all of that decision to the salesperson, because they know the customer, they know what all the parameters are, and it gives them the flexibility and autonomy to make those decisions within reason.
So Tony, tell me one that doesn't work.
Oh.
Or Chad, if I threw a little curveball at you, Tone, think about it for a minute. I'll jump in here and say, what doesn't work is, okay, so I'm giving you a base salary. I'm going to give you 6% of margin based on commission, and then you have a bonus tier once you hit 100,000, and then it's a full percent after that, 0.5% after 25,000. Anything additional to that is 0.25% that's maxed at 200,000.
So anything that's complicated?
Yeah.
Oh, did you find that complicated? Yeah. So that's my point is whatever you do decide, make it simple.
Simplicity. Yep.
Make it simple. Because you're going to spend so much time administering it, people gaming it, dicking around. If you have a good salesperson, they are going to look at how
they're going
to
figure it out.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
every single one does.
Keep it simple. And it's not in stone. If you decide this is what your compensation is, you can review it and you can change it. That's
I will say that
it
is
works.
Yes, you can change it, but that is something that maybe doesn't work. Like, you don't want to be doing a new compensation structure for your sales team every year or every 6 months, right? Like, yes, you can change it once, but that is something that will annoy people. Is every new year I have a new target.
I'm not saying it doesn't annoy people.
Correct. Yeah.
But it is very common.
Correct.
And I think there's more in small business. I think there's more fear about making a decision than there is about, right? Like it just, we're more paralyzed that we're making the wrong decision, and therefore we don't make any decision. So this is me saying, you have every right as the person that signs the paycheck. Before. Yeah, Tony never had any AD conflict.
Never had any of that.
You have the right as the person that signs the front of the paycheck to make changes if you were wrong.
So I would say also another thing that doesn't work is when I think there's. I'm answering your question finally. So,
thank you.
I think what you said at the beginning is very true. There are many ways to set up a sales compensation structure. Where it will fail is when they don't align with your goals. And that is just to reiterate that point of, I think you really need to sit down and figure out, what do I want to incentivize? What type of people do I want to
Can
have?
you think of a tangible instance where you screwed something up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Oh. No, I don't have, I never screw anything up, Lars. That's just you. I don't make any decisions, so how can I screw them up? It's just
good time to check into YouTube if you want to see disbelief on the face of yours truly. Look at that moment.
Yes. Anyways,
go on.
If you would let me talk, I will try to get this somewhere. No, I can't remember. If you,
I knew
if you,
oh,
if you want to be selling RMR, okay, so say you're an electronics company, right? And you're focused on your sales team selling more RMR. Do not incentivize them on materials sold or product sold. Set up your commission structure or your KPIs to incentivize. And I think there's a lot of parallels you'll hear between our KPI episode and this episode.
Right.
Make sure that they are compensated or their measurables are tied to RMR sold. On the flip side, if you have a hardware salesperson, do not incentivize them on RMR. They don't sell RMR. So think about when you're tying up bonus plans or when whatever you're creating, make sure it is tied to the thing you're trying to incentivize. And I can say within our company, when I shifted commission structures to be a little bit more focused on RMR and less on sales, but we're far more willing to sell systems that had RMR tied to them when that's how they were compensated. So once I moved those measurables, it became a bigger focus of, okay, let's go sell more of these RMR systems.
Yeah. Align it. And I love that. Align it to what you want. And that's where you as a business owner, hopefully sitting here listening to this right now, it's what do you actually want? What are you trying to get? And align that compensation for it. Chad, any other screw ups? This is one of my favorite parts of the episodes is Chad eating a little curl here. Go ahead.
I think the one that we've struggled with the most is overly incentivizing or not having a clear path for what the outcome that we're expecting. So that's a mouthful, right? I need you to go get $3 million in sales this year. Actually, what I want you to do is I want you to get around $300,000 in sales every month. Okay, because if we get $3 million in sales a year, I don't want $1 million in the middle of the year and $50,000 a month outside of that. I need some consistency, and consistency is, not to get on a Lars tangent here, but consistency is doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? And so we need.
Thanks for watching, Chad.
Yeah, we need to break that down into what is the daily behaviors that we're going to get our weekly outcome. So actually, when we look at it, we actually wanted about $70,000 to $80,000 a week in margin approvals. I don't want a week that I have $400,000 and a week that I have 10. I need it to be consistent. And so when we originally started our sales organization, I gave them a big, broad goal of, I think the original when we had a sales team and it was 2 people, I think it was like $1 million in sales. And I said, I don't care how you get it, where you get it, when you get it, I need $1 million in sales. That was a mistake because we went for, we had famine for the first quarter.
You're going Hail Marys.
Yes. And
bombs.
And so when we had our most successful year, which was 2025, and each year has been incrementally
quick brag there, boys. Best year, 2025.
It has. Well, and incrementally it's gotten better, right? Yeah. So, but it all came down to the weekly targets, weekly activities, and we broke down the big goal down into smaller bite-sized digestible features, and we were able to get success with it. So the answer there is you actually have to manage it. Right? You can't just throw out a big goal and then walk away and hope that you hit it.
And I think that's where it was going. Chad has done a tremendous job in leading his team where they want to go. It's taken a while. I would say, if we looked at our 3 companies, Tony, you and I, we've been more of a exponential kind of explosion, right? Where we've had a quick and then kind of leveled off, and then a growth and then leveled off. Where Chad's been more of a slow burn, where he's been, focused more on culture and building through that. And his is more, I don't know what the opposite of exponential is, but just a consistent
linear
pattern. Thank you, Tone. Good job. It's every once in a while. So it's the leadership and the management style is certainly going to be part of it, and being involved. And Chad, you're not a sage that just learned this on a mountain somewhere. No. You learn this through experience. You learn this. Are there for anyone that is listening, is there anything you would recommend? A book, a person, a group, a podcast like the unlockpodcast.com? Any of these, where can people get a little bit of this kind of knowledge that you've gathered over the years?
One book I'll throw out that has kind of the contrarian viewpoint is Drive by Daniel Pink. He talks about how people are motivated by autonomy, mastery, and purpose, and that carrots and sticks have short-term wins, but long-term.
Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's
really good book just on general motivation habits and how to motivate people. Yeah. The book, I think, talks about just people in general, not just sales team. And it does advocate that salespeople need to have some incentives due to the nature of the role. But I found that to be a really, really interesting read and just kind of a contrarian viewpoint on how to motivate people.
Right. Yeah. Chad, do you have a tip or a trick for us here?
It's the culmination of a lot of books. I think the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team really opened up my eyes to going, hold on a second. How's our teams molding together? Did we have a bunch of little islands or silos that were not working well together? Obviously 4 Disciplines of Execution help with that. And I'll tell you one of the largest things, when we have these conversations, this is why I'm a huge fan of this podcast and this format, is because we get to talk and share ideas like this.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I sat on a peer group of other security owners and leaders, and was frustrated with kind of our sales operation, and asked the question, how do you guys manage your sales teams? And a gentleman recommended Saunders Sales Training or something like that. That's probably the wrong name. But he also gave me just a quick little one-pager on how their structure was set up.
You don't want to give a shout out to this guy? He gave you the knowledge, and you're like, some dude.
It was Ross from Watchman Security in
Ross. Okay, cool.
Yeah, in
thanks, Ross.
Kansas City, I think. And he gave me this, and we were able to take parts of it and apply it to our team, and that helped kind of establish some of the weekly cadence around it.
Cadence, that's a great corporate buzzword.
Yep.
Good job.
But that was kind of how that was one of the elements that kind of led into implementing this structure. But I wanted to just say this, just back to the team aspect, because you, Lars, were talking about the competitive nature when when you had those commission salesmen or whatever that were just kind of, how's this going to work? I walked into our sales office yesterday and was listening to a phone call. So we have 6 outside sales reps. We have 4 in Charlotte, 4 that are based in Charlotte, 1 in Anderson, and 1 in Charleston, South Carolina. One of my sales reps in Charlotte was on a speakerphone call with one of our newest sales reps down in Anderson, South Carolina, and he was walking him through. I just pulled it up to look at it. He was walking him through building out a $10,000 estimate.
Okay.
He was on the phone with him for probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Helping him to select the products, explaining to him what to use, how to use it. In a commission-based environment where everybody is fighting for $1, I don't think you get a similar experience. They're a team working towards a goal, right? And so one guy was helping another guy work towards an opportunity that could potentially lead towards their target.
Yes.
And so it creates a very high team energy.
Yeah. And I don't think this is a black or white yes or no. I don't think that anything commission-based is bad and anything team-based is good. I think there are tweaks. And again, I'm going to say it depends on where you are, who you are, what your culture is, and which direction you want to go. There are positives and negatives of each. There's a little app on your phone called GPT that can tell you all about that stuff. But I would agree, after 15 years of doing this, that the team aspect, if you can harvest and harbor is a better word, that team aspect, you spend less time on the crap you probably don't want to do, aka HR, aka compensation negotiations, aka the stuff that you probably just don't enjoy. I did want to give a shout out there. It was Patrick Lencioni. That's he's I think he's pretty spot on with a lot of stuff he does. We talked about 5 dysfunctions. I'm going to warn you, 5 dysfunctions is a relatively straightforward read. It's not a joy book that you read. 4 disciplines of execution was the other one Chad mentioned. That is not one you're just going to want to listen to on Audible. That is, bring a fork because you're going to have to chew through that one. Very good book. Just lots to it. Okay, fellas, I think we're there. I think, Chad, we're a little long in the tooth here. I think we're going to land the plane. I'm trying to think anything else on the bingo card that we missed this week, but I really enjoyed this, guys.
Yeah.
I thought this was, I thought this was a nice discussion and a lot of experience that I'm hoping people can relate to and hopefully challenge us. I mean, if you disagree with these 2 dummies, by all means, make sure, send a comment, send an email, LinkedIn, Instagram, I don't know, whatever communication device you want. But by all means, reach out, tell us where we screwed up, tell us where these guys were wrong, where I was right, all of that stuff.
Well, it's funny, Kevin, this is something that we should have mentioned at the beginning. Kevin Sheehan had sent us Unlocked Podcast bingo card. And one of the items on here was that we all agree, everyone agrees immediately. And that definitely did not happen today. So
no, there was a couple on there that really had. Tony, I'm getting ready to throw it to you here for the next episode, but I did want to reference our ChatGPT listened to our podcast and made a little bingo card. So let me rephrase that. People don't talk about this. Lars drops deadpan one-liner.
All 3 of us talk at one time.
All 3 of us talk at one time. Everyone agrees immediately. Silence, awkward, check phone, topic change, 0 warning. I think we've nailed all these. Oh, Lars makes face instead of responding. Tony.
That has definitely happened.
I give you enough vamp here. Let's go. Yeah. What's our next topic?
So I don't know if I like this one, but we're going to go with it.
Oh, boy.
I think that as we have grown in our careers, we've all gone back and forth on being actively involved and then also kind of hands off and delegating more. And I was recently just having a conversation with Chad about I think he was getting kind of into the weeds with his accounting team and going to come in and stir things up a bit. Hopefully he's done that by now. Otherwise, they can listen to this and know it's coming. I want to do a topic on just balancing delegation versus being present and engaged. I know we've kind of poked fun at Chad and said, "Oh, he doesn't do anything anymore," but we all know he does. But I think that you sometimes see owners that are completely hands off and not involved at all, and then you see owners that are super deep in the weeds and doing everything and almost micromanaging and super involved. I want to talk a little bit about how do you find that balance and how do you know when to make decisions, when not to, and when to be involved and when not to. And what is that perfect level of
That's a great topic.
delegation?
Why do you not want to do that topic?
I don't know. It just seemed like something we've talked about before.
You don't
I
want
don't
us
know
to
if we
pick
can
on
make a
you.
topic
When have
out of
we
it. But
ever been less than genuine
Enthusiastic
about
about
your...
that is hilarious that this is a topic that I was not excited about and you guys loved it.
No, I'm just trying to make you feel better. All right, Chad, where do these guys find us? Obviously, they have found us, but...
You found us. Make sure you
thing.
subscribe. Unlockedpodcast.com. Make sure you subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform that you prefer to listen to, as well as YouTube, because we have new episodes that are coming out every week. Do want to give a shout out to those of you that send us messages on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you are finding us. I just had an awesome conversation a couple of days ago with a guy named Colin who runs a business, and he had a great time chatting with him around how his business is growing, things that he's being challenged with, and how he's wanting to grow his organization. Spent maybe an hour on a Google Meet with him a couple of days ago. So please reach out to us. We'll have we're all happy to have a conversation with you about what we're learning and what you're learning and how we can apply it to our businesses. Let's all get better together. How about that? Unlockedpodcast.com. Thank you for being here. Brand new episode coming next Thursday, and we will see you then.